I'm Corey Gallagher, and this is my wife, Kaethe, and we've been married for almost 23 years. If we make it to June, it will be 23. So
we met in college, right before college started, at Intro to College Week at UWGB.
we weren't even a week into school.
No, it was the pre-school started.
Yeah. I knew that she was the one I was going to marry when I met her. That's kind of cliche, but we dated on and off through college, but I always knew that she was the one I wanted to marry. The hardest thing we've gone through as a couple is when we were near brink of divorce.
Well, we weren't believers, and so we were just both really wrapped up in ourselves and what we thought we wanted out of life, and this was Corey's third career that we were on for at that point in our marriage, right? Mm-hmm. And that's when we were living in St. Kitts, and he was in vet school, and I met someone else and thought that person was my soulmate and wanted out of the marriage, and by God's grace, we didn't get divorced. It wasn't just one of us, it was both of our choices that we made leading up to that, and ultimately it was our selfishness.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was going to say was, ultimately it was, we both were selfish. We were in the marriage for what we were going to get out of it, not what we were going to give to each other. Kaethe finding someone else that, I wasn't innocent in that whole thing either. I was caught up in pornography. So, I was just as much at fault. And, again, thank the grace of God that he was able to get a hold of us.
For me, it was the end. I was the one that was pursuing divorce, and I didn't have hope. I didn't have any hope at that point.
For me, it was definitely a wake-up call. Obviously, fortunately, God had been orchestrating some of the stuff before we even knew, before I knew about, her wanting to leave. He had gotten a hold of my heart, and I was starting to pursue him. By his power, I stopped the pornography. I was like, I got to be a better husband. I was trying to be a better husband. It was literally the 2x4 upside the head that I needed. And so I wasn't going to give up without a fight. Literally, as a new Christian, what I read was every passage there was in the Bible on marriage. And yeah, there's that little stipulation, but God hates divorce. If you truly read his scriptures, he hates divorce. And so that wasn't an option that I was going to give into easily. Ultimately, God again put people in our lives that were able to speak into it, speak into the marriage. But, I just remember I flew home in the middle of vet school, skipped studying for exams because Kaethe had gone back to the States, and I flew home in the middle of it, and I remember flying, and pleading with her, but then flying home. I had 40 days on the island yet before I was gonna not be in St. Kitts anymore. And, I just pursued God for 40 days. And ultimately, by pursuing him, he shows you that it's not about you. It's not about you, it's about him. And
meanwhile I was wrestling with him coming and not wanting to let me go. And God was just faithful to put people in our lives. It's amazing how the Holy Spirit can direct even a hard-hearted person when someone's praying for them. I believe that's what happened, because I'm sure Corey and the people in his life were praying for me. And even though I wasn't a believer at that point, I was pursuing him. I was going to a church. I was really having this wrestling match in my head, and then just the way things worked out, and I moved down to Iowa where he was going to finish vet school. And at that point, God just brought us to a church, and just like stepping stones, like looking back, it's like just like these stepping stones that God put exactly where they needed to be at literally exactly the right moment. When Corey's about to kick me out of this apartment we're living in, a pastor calls from that church reaching out to him, and he came and met with us. And the turning point was when this pastor came to our house and looked at me, and he's like, are you willing to let God work in your marriage? And I wanted to say no, but I didn't. I said yes. And from that moment on, it was just, God, if you want me to stay in this marriage, you're going to have to change my heart. You're going to have to do it all. And he did. That's what happened. I mean, it's a miracle. And all I can say for people that are struggling in their marriage is, don't give up hope. Don't look at your spouse as the enemy. Try to focus on your relationship with God, because looking back, if Corey hadn't been pursuing God and trying to, fix his relationship with God, he wouldn't have had any reason to want to stay with me.